Yes, thank you, Miss Tina. Thank you, Seneca. Thank you, Belle, all of our amazing musicians. Thank you, thank you. So I'm so pleased now to tell you a little bit about our guest speaker today, my friend, Reverend Chris Alexander. Reverend Chris is a meta minister of Soul Evolution Collaborative. Also, the Global Themes Coordinator for Centers for Spiritual Living. So all these wonderful themes we've been doing, she's been helping to coordinate that for us. And Reverend Chris is the Curriculum Development Specialist for Circles USA. She is a visionary catalyst, pioneering the path of possibility and social transformation through universal principles. As a spiritual alchemist, I love that. Anyone else? I like that. A spiritual alchemist and global change agent, she unapologetically embraces her role of truth teller. Oh, we could use some more of those in today's world, right? Because what I know about Rev. Chris is she is not afraid to say the thing that needs to be said, right? In order to create that catalyst of change. And she says it with heart and with love. Most of the time. Reverend Chris is dedicated to exploring the intricate intersection between the mystical and the mundane, together with the sacred and the profane. With a remarkable ability to hold paradoxes and perceive life from multiple perspectives, she champions the power of honest, love-infused communities. We had the opportunity yesterday to be with Reverend Chris as well for her workshop, The Third Way. And we did an exercise where we looked at the third way, if the dichotomy was human and the other being divine, how do we embrace that third way? So what I know also about Reverend Chris is her unwavering commitment to authenticity forms her foundation for building genuine connections, creating an environment where truth and wholeness can thrive. Reverend Chris, you can find out more about her and all of her happenings, as well as she has a lot of resources on her website. So make sure to check out and explore her body of work on the website revchris.org. So without any further ado, please give a warm Ahavian welcome. Welcome back to Reverend Chris. Other days, it's just like, what is happening? The technology, And we talk about, Reverend Chris and I are both very we're flexible, we're chill, usually. We can go with the flow, we can adapt, and sometimes Spirit gives us many opportunities to do that.
to practice our flexibility.
Give you enough room?
Oh yeah, that's fine. Okay. I'm not as wiggly as you are.
I don't know about that.
All right, so my apologies for having my laptop up. I promise that I am not scrolling Facebook. All right, y'all. But I really want to be able to do the message that I had planned because I like it. I think it's good. And the main reason that I wanted my laptop and I wasn't going to just wing it is because this is going to be a what are y'all called? Audience participation. Woo, buddy. All right. Whew, we're going to reset. Tina, you have me all messed up with that song. So this month we're talking about holy boldness, right? So I looked up these words. I love a good definition. So holy, on top of all of the normal things that we think about, like relating to a deity and all of that, the Oxford Languages Dictionary says it is morally and spiritually excellent. And to me, there's a lot of wiggle room in that. Like, if I were to tell you what I think would be morally and spiritually excellent, chances are you would say something different, right? Those are very subjective sort of things, within a reasonable way. And so that's interesting to me to think about, that it's subjective. It's all subjective. And then boldness is willingness to take risks, act innovatively with confidence and courage. So I was just kind of mulling that around in my head, and then I started thinking about today's topic, which is fired up for life. And yeah, how many people here, because I'm fired up for life. Like, I'm excited to be here, like, most of the time. I'm pretty happy to have this body and, like, be doing things in the world. Is anybody here fired up for life 100% of the time? Okay, I thought maybe it was just me. Right? Like, it's not an always sort of thing. And especially I'm listening to this song, this girl is on fire, and then it's talking about how underneath she's lonely, and she's sort of having this inner and outer experience that's very different. What we're seeing is not necessarily what she's experiencing. And I think for myself that to be fired up for life, as much as possible, I want what's inside of me to be able to authentically come out and have it be this sort of fired up for life, for being human, for, being in community, be the authentic thing that I'm feeling. And of course, there's always going to be banana slug moments and times. But in general, I started thinking about what can we do to help ourselves be more fired up more often, more of the time. Because to me, being fired up, generally when we think about that, it's something that just kind of happens to you. Like, that got me all fired up, right? But actually, fired up is something that we can cultivate. Much like a fire, we can grow that fired up experience in ourselves. We can become more fired up for life by being intentional in our actions, our behaviors, our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, all of the things that make us us. So, fired up, I also looked that up, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, is energetic, determined, and full of strong feeling. And then it says, usually excitement or anger, but just strong feeling. So I can be fired up and happy. I can be fired up and in grief. I can be fired up and angry or excited or in love or experiencing life. That to me is what fired up is. So we have a good old acronym, y'all. And with everyone, like I said, this is audience participation. So with every one, I have a question for y'all. And y'all if you're online, I invite you to type your answer into the chat. And if you are here in the room, I'm going to invite you to shout your answer out. We want to hear it. And I will repeat answers that are shouted to me so that way people online can hear what the folks in the room are saying. All right? So, fired. F is for faith. And I want to shift this idea of faith just a little bit. We generally think that we have to have faith in something, right? You have faith in God or faith in yourself or faith in your community or your family or whatever it may be. And often what Ernest Holmes says, our founder here in Science of Mind, he says that fear is simply a misuse of faith. Yes, and I want to switch it to say, I invite you not to have faith in something, but to have the faith of God. right? So, what would it feel like to approach life with the faith of God? If you truly got that you are God having this experience as you, how would you show up to life? That's not the question. Hold on. That one's rhetorical. But think about it. How would I show up to life if I truly had the faith of God in every moment, in everything that happens, in everything that I do? And then, this is the question I would like y'all to answer out loud. I want you to think about, what do you have faith in right now? So let's just say you have the faith of God. What do you have faith in as God having faith? Does that make sense? So what do you have faith in? Self, my husband, their husband, not my husband, her husband. Divine timing. That one. Life. Faith that it won't always be like this, that it gets better. Yeah. Faith in our essence. Faith of God in God. Yeah. What else? Say it again. Your breath. Ooh. Well, faith in coffee. I put a lot of faith in coffee to fix my entire life every morning. Yeah. Yeah. Peggy, no, go. It's you. Faith in nature. Yeah, so many of these I resonate with. The trees especially. Yeah. That the sun will rise. I have faith that when I wake up and go to get out of bed, that my body's going to work and I'm going to be able to stand up and get out of bed. And that, to me, I started thinking about that one in particular, and I was like, we do have this sort of general faith that our body's going to work the way that we expect it to work, whether that's with legs that walk around or not, or any other things. But sometimes that doesn't happen, right? Sometimes we wake up and our body doesn't do what we think it should be doing, right? And then what do we do with that? I don't have any answers. I'm just mulling along with y'all. How does our faith of God respond when something goes a little off the rails? When that faith all of a sudden is questioned just a little bit? Those are my thoughts. So faith, to me, is, if we're looking at this idea of being fired up, right? Being fired up for life, I think that having faith is important. And then we get to decide what we have faith in. We get to decide where we take the faith of God, because we are that divine expression, individualized as us. So we have the faith of God. What do we then put that in? And then, is what you are putting your faith in supporting you in being fired up? And if it's not, maybe see if there's something else that's inviting you to have faith in it. I is for integrity. So, to me, much like the song, integrity is that my insides match my outsides. So what I say, what I do, the action that I take in the world aligns with my morals, my values, my ethics, my belief system, my purpose, what I'm here to do. And to me, to be out of integrity, I can tell when I'm out of integrity. It's really it's gross. It's really uncomfortable. And I don't know if any of y'all have that experience of, I'm just going to tell this little white lie because it's easier, and like, does it really matter? And then you're like, ugh, that was so gross and uncomfortable, right? Like, does anybody have that experience when you're like, well, do I have to be authentic like 24/7? Like, could I just be like a little inauthentic to get through this hard thing? And then you're like, oh no, that's worse. That's worse than just being authentic and having it be hard, right? And so the more that our insides can match our outsides, the more fired up for life we can be. And in order for our insides and our outsides to match up, we have to know what our insides are. And we have to have some self-awareness there. And I don't know that we always do, right? Like, I'm still discovering things about myself, little pockets of things that just sort of well up. Some of them are good. Some of them are like pockets of jelly beans. And some of them are like pockets of pus, right? Like, it's good and it's bad. And it's all of those things. But either way, every time that happens, regardless of how uncomfortable it is, I get excited because the more that I know myself, the more I can be in integrity, the more that who I am in the world can align with who I actually am on the inside when nobody's around, when nobody's looking. So my question for you is, what does integrity feel like? Like in your body, when you're in integrity, how does it feel? Empowering, yeah. Oh, yeah. Aligned? Yes. Aligned. Peaceful? Secure? Yes. Yes, yes. Expansive. Courageous? Yeah. Smooth? Yeah. Like, can just kind of move through life, yeah. Ease, yeah. Powerful, yeah. Ooh. Exhausting, yeah. It can feel really exhausting, especially if our lives, our external lives, are not in alignment with who we are or what would really work for us. And then all of a sudden, in order for us to be in integrity, to show up into our lives in a way that matches our inside and our outside, all of a sudden we have to decide whether we're going to go against the grain in our current life or if we're going to, work to completely overhaul our whole life to be in alignment. And then how do we do that? And when do we do that? And what does that going to look like? And oh my God, what's next if it's not this? And yeah. It could be exhausting real quick. I feel that. Anything else? What does being in integrity feel like to you? Say that again. It can be confusing. Yeah, that's another one, because what in the world am I actually thinking, feeling, believing in this moment, right? And oftentimes, because our bodies give us so much really fantastic information that we aren't necessarily taught in our society to listen to, oftentimes our bodies will be the first one to tell us something is amiss, but then are we going to listen to it? If we listen to it, what is that going to mean? Why is my body telling me this when I thought everything was fine and dandy? I have that one a lot. Right? Yeah. All right. Are y'all ready? Corbell is ready. She is like on the edge of her seat. All right. So the R is for responsibility. And I do not mean responsibility like we were taught in elementary school. I mean the ability to respond, right? So often we move through our lives reacting to, stay there for just a minute. That one's great. Reacting to what's happening around us, right? And we tend to think, and y'all know that this is a thing that we're trying to overcome, for lack of a better word, this reaction to life. Life is happening to me, and then I have to react to it as the victim. And instead, what we're moving to is a responding. And to me, response takes breath. Going back to that F of faith, response takes breath. Because what it requires of me is to slow down, to stop, to say, most of the time, no one's going to die. So I can take a breath and I can decide what I want to do in this moment as a result of what is happening around me. Right? That's really hard work, y'all. Like, really hard. So, reaction. Do y'all know what the difference between reaction and creation is? It's how you see it. So, you can go to the next one. There we go. So, it was worth the wait. It's all about how you see it. In order to get from reaction to creation, you just have to move that one little C. You just have to look at things differently. You just have to shift your perspective. That's it. Just, shift your perspective, look at things differently, do everything differently than you've ever done before. No big deal. Super simple, right? Yeah. So, what percentage of the time do you feel like you respond rather than react? So how often in your life are you responding versus reacting? Not enough. I would say, let's see, for myself, maybe like a 60-40 split, depending on the day, which one's 60 and which one's 40. What about y'all? What percentage of the time do you feel like you're responding to the world rather than reacting? 70%, Tina. That's awesome. Yes, ma'am. She did. I know. Everybody's like, let me respond to this question. Yes. It does depend day to day, right? Like, some days I'm on it. It's like 97% response. And then the next day it's like 7% response. Anyone else want to answer? 6.34 from my lovely spouse in the back. Is that on a scale of 1 to 10 or out of 100? That is a percentage. It's hard. It is hard work. It is something that we are not going to master. Even, you could say, my number one goal in life for the rest of my life is to respond to everything instead of react. And you would get to the end of your life and you would still not have 100. That's just the reality of it, because life is hard sometimes, and sometimes we're going to react to it. E is for evolution. So, I believe that in order to be consistently fired up for life, that we have to be willing to continue to grow every single day. And that willingness to grow, that's hard as well, because growth requires discomfort. And discomfort requires stepping outside of your comfort zone. And so in order to be in a consistent state of evolution and of growth, you have to take a half a step. You have to basically live a half a step outside of your comfort zone. Not 50 steps, right? Not even a whole step, just half a step outside of your comfort zone. And what's really beautiful about that is that when you step half a step outside of your comfort zone, eventually, sometimes quicker, sometimes slower, your comfort zone expands to meet you. And all of a sudden you realize that even though you're standing in the same place, you're in your comfort zone again. All of a sudden, this is easy and comfortable, and then you go, oh, okay. and you step a half a step, right? Further outside of your comfort zone. And then eventually that becomes your comfort zone, and you step a half a step outside of your comfort zone. And your comfort zone, it expands, but it also moves along with you, right? Have you ever had the experience where you go back to something that used to be very comfortable to you 5 years ago? Like going home for the first time after you've been at college for a year, or, maybe it's just holiday dinners. Every year you go visit your family for Thanksgiving, and you're like, oof, this is family, right? And then start to think about that you lived with those people. You grew up in that. That was your comfort zone. Look how far you've come. And so what's really beautiful is when you have those types of experiences, take that opportunity to pat yourself on the back, to congratulate yourself for how far you've come. This is no longer comfortable to me. I no longer accept this because now I'm in integrity. My insides match my outsides. I know what my values are. I'm living my life in a way that works for me. Yes, yes. So the other problem, the other challenge of constant states of evolution and growth is that it requires you to be wrong a lot. And nobody likes to be wrong. We are taught that being wrong is the worst thing that you can be. But it's not true. Actually, being wrong is the best thing you can be because it means that you are growing and evolving and learning something new. I should say, knowing that you are wrong, right? Having the self-awareness that when somebody comes to you and says, hey, Reverend Chris, you did that thing, and it was really activating to me, and I don't know if you realize this, but when you said that, it could mean this, and I go, I never thought about it that way. Oh my God, you're right. I'm going to work on that. There is so much power in being able to be wrong graciously, lovingly. And if you choose to grow and evolve and be fired up for life, you get to be wrong all the time. Yes, it's okay. We'll do it together. We'll just all be wrong together. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you with being uncomfortable? I would say I'm at like an 8. 8? Okay, yeah, lots of 8s. 6.5. 7. I'm hearing some 7s. 5, yep. 4. And if you notice, there's no judgment. Maybe you're judging yourself. I invite you not to do that. There is no judgment in the answer that you give. The reason that I'm asking you these questions is to invite self-awareness, to invite you to see where you're at. We're just taking a little temperature. We're just gauging how we're showing up in this life. And then, if you want, you don't have to. You can leave and you can go over to Chipotle, and that can be the end of it. But if you want, you can assess, I said I was a 1 for being comfortable with discomfort. Is that working for me? Maybe it is. Or, are there things that I would like to do that would be a little more uncomfortable that maybe I'd like to practice being uncomfortable in a safe way? There is nothing wrong with any answer that you give in your head or out loud or on the computer. It's not right or wrong. You cannot fail this quiz. It's just simply taking an assessment of where you're at, and then you can decide what you want to do with the information. Which kind of leads us to D, which is for discovery. So another aspect of growth and evolution is discovery, being willing to just learn new things. I love we got to go to Reverend Rainbow's beautiful home yesterday. And when you walk in her house, there is a giant stack of books on her to be read list. And what that tells me is that discovery is important to Reverend Rainbow, right? That she is in this constant state of learning, and that learning informs that evolution, right? They all kind of go together hand in hand. And I know for myself that I am more fired up for life when I am excited about what I am learning in the world, what I am discovering. I think I told y'all the last time I was here, I love TikTok. But I think the number one reason that I love TikTok is because so many people are on there teaching me things that I never even knew was a thing, let alone about the thing, right? There's one girl I follow on there. She's talking about, I don't know, planets and other galaxies that are doing cool things and how we're utilizing that technology here. What? I didn't know we were doing any of that. Discovery. And what it is curiosity is our number one spiritual superpower. I'm going to stand by that until I don't anymore, until somebody tells me I'm wrong, and I agree with them. Curiosity is our number one spiritual superpower because it shows up not just in learning, not just in reading, not just in growing, but it shows up when something happens, when my spouse and I get into a disagreement. It shows up as, instead of reacting, going back to that response versus react, I can say, wow, can you tell me more about that? I'm really confused right now. I'm really curious. That wasn't my experience of what happened here. So I'm really curious as to how you got to where you are, and I'd love to share with you how I got to where I am. And actually, I'm going to be curious, how did I get to where I am? Where did the misunderstanding occur? And then how do we come back together, right? So curiosity goes beyond just learning and growing our minds. It goes into our relationships, into the way that we show up with one another. Because what I know is that y'all are a little mini beloved community here, right? And what I know is that community comes with conflicts and disagreements and misunderstandings and messiness. And so the more that you can be willing to show up with curiosity, the more that you can just lean into, you know what, that person probably has a valid reason for what's happening here, so I'm going to ask them to tell me more. The more that this community coheses and becomes even more and more and more. So, what is the last thing you learned? What is the last thing you learned? You can tell like a topic that you learned about. You can tell a random fact you learned. What is the last thing you learned? That ant eggs are little tiny white balls. Did Cadence teach you that?
I picked up a paper and saw them all.
Oh, that's those are ant eggs. Then they turn into little white squiggly larvae.
Yeah.
That's fun. We got to watch, actually, speaking of bugs, we got to watch a squash bug lay eggs on a squash leaf. It was very cool. And then not so cool because it was our squash leaf in our garden. What else? What's the last thing you learned? That convicted felons can still run for president. You know, that was a really surprising fact for me too. I am not going to comment on that, but that was something that I did not know, and now I do. It is. What else? That you can do hard things. Yes, ma'am, you can do hard things. And isn't it true that when you learn that, and learn it, because I don't know about you, but I've had to learn it so many times, that it becomes easier to step outside of our comfort zone, because then we can say, I can do this hard thing. I can do this hard thing. "Oh, I don't want to, but I can do this hard thing." I do a lot of complaining before I do hard things. Really works for me. All right, the U, we're almost through, y'all. I know, we're almost through. The U is for unshakable. Unshakable. All right, if you are online and you have a child in the room, cover their ears because I'm going to use a bad word. I don't see any children in here. Oh, there is a child. There are children in here. Never mind. I like to call this being unfuckwithable. What is your foundation? What is your life based on? Do you have a strong foundation? Do you feel like when life happens, when life comes at you, your initial reaction is to react? Maybe you do react at first, and then you take a step back and you go, okay, actually, I'm going to respond to this. Now that I've reacted, now I'm going to respond, right? Whatever it may be, is your foundation solid enough to hold you and whatever that thing is all at the same time? Just a question. And if it's not, why not? And is that working for you? That's always the question. Is this working for me? And if it is, fantastic. Enjoy your sandy foundation. And if it's not, what can you do to shore up that foundation? What can you do? How can you get some concrete under there with you? So my first Science of Mind teacher, Reverend Barbara Waterhouse, she used to say, principle cannot be sacrificed even on special occasions. And what she meant was when life goes to, where in a handbasket, we don't get the luxury of throwing our beliefs, our principles, our idea of oneness away just because it got hard. We don't get to sacrifice our principles just because it got harder to see them in our worlds. Instead, we get to lean in, bury ourselves into that foundation. Maybe we realize that our foundation is built out of sand because something happens and that doesn't work, and we're like, okay, well, I got a foundation built out of sand, so I'm just gonna dig out a hole and get in it because we're still here. It's still my foundation, right? So, what do you feel like your foundation is built on right now? Trust. Ooh, I love that. Trust. Sand. Say that again. Tots and pears. Tots and prayers. A play on thoughts and prayers. Tots and prayers. I need that on a t-shirt. That's amazing. I love that so much. Go ahead, Peggy. Oh, go ahead, Patty. I know your name. Good Lord. Patty, darling, Patty C. Justice. Ooh, there was a whole across the room. Yeah, justice. Anyone else? What's your foundation built on? So funny, when I was like, I'm going to ask this question, I really thought people would be like, stone, concrete, sand, wood. That's a good one. Cinder blocks, because there's a little hole you can trip on in the middle, but mostly it's strong. I'm going to go with cinder blocks for me too. Go ahead. Truth. Yes. Yeah. All right, P. We've almost made it, y'all. I know. I've gotten long-winded, but the P is for purpose. What is your purpose in life? Are you ready? I'm going to tell you. I know Reverend Rainbow tells you all the time too, so I'm going to tell you, just in case you didn't believe her. You have no purpose. Your purpose is to be alive. Congratulations. You have fully lived into your purpose. Well done. It's already done. You've done it. So now you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. You have no, your purpose is, congratulations, you have done it. Your purpose is to be yourself. You've done it. You are yourself. Yes. Our purpose, if you listened to my talk the last time, you know that the reading was on purpose, and it was from a Psalm for the Wild-Built. Still highly recommend it, right? And what Mosscap the robot says is that we have no purpose other than to be alive. We have separated ourselves from this, from nature, like we're something other than nature. But actually the reality is that we are nature. Nature's purpose is to nature, and therefore our purpose is to nature. It's just to be alive. There's no other purpose. And so you've done it. You can set goals, you can have dreams, you can have ambitions, you can write a purpose statement, you can have a vision and a mission and all of the things. You can decide you're going to do things in the world. Those are all great. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because you've already done it. You are alive. You are breathing. So, with all of that, it was way longer than 20 minutes. My love. Ryan always says, don't talk for more than 20 minutes. I invite everybody into prayer. And so what I know is that there is only that one infinite, absolute, eternal presence going on, that one thing that is each and every one of us. That thing that when we look out at the galaxies and the star systems and the nebulas and the universe and the multiverse, the things beyond the things that we can't see, all we find is more and more and more of that divinity, more and more of that holiness. And when we take a breath and go within to the very building blocks of ourselves, of our bodies, of this planet, what we find is more and more and more God. That is the very essence of what this universe is made of. It is atoms and quarks and cells and systems and protons and neutrons and electrons. It's the only thing that's going on. And so knowing this to be true, I know that each and every one of us here is that God stuff. That we were built out of the same thing, the very essence of this universe. And that each and every one of us, as a result, is fired up for life. That each and every one of us is living on purpose because we are alive. And that when we move on, we'll be on purpose doing whatever that thing is. That we are fired up for life, that we are living our fullest human life in this body, in this time, with these people, in this community. And that each and every one of us are settled into our faith, our integrity, our responsibility, our evolution, our discovery, our unshakability, and our purpose. And I am so grateful for this beloved community and for all of the good work that is being done in the world. I am grateful for this amazing group of fired up human beings. And so I simply release my word. I let it go. I know it is done as I have spoken. And so it is.